Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. We'll get back with his good friend, the Lumberjack. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing super awesome. I love bonus content.
Yeah, this one's important because, as you've seen in a lot of my videos, I talk about national housing numbers. I can talk about Fresno or the national market.
Yeah, sure.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Not your guy, right? And we've had Brian Lebo on recently talking about Vegas. I collected information about Phoenix recently. I have a Phoenix agent coming on tomorrow. I talked to LA agents, Inland Empire, Orange County. I can talk about Fresno or the country.
Yes.
So we need to remind people that with all the housing crash talk, it doesn't freaking matter. It really doesn't. Now, it's entertaining for me because I've been studying it for 30 years and I geek out on data. I study the consumer. So this is the next year is exciting for me because I get to see if I'm right about the consumer.
Sure.
But for real estate investors, one rental at a time, fans, buy and hold, I don't want people to get confused. And I'm afraid sometimes I confuse them. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, one of the things that bothers me is that real estate's hyper local. We talk about national numbers because this is a national show. But if, we did a deep dive last weekend on my channel about New Hampshire. You posted on your channel this weekend. And that was literally showing people the NAR, New Hampshire
Association of
Realtors. Yep. Association of Realtors. Thank you. And so literally going through that, and those are the numbers that I look at. That's what I'm watching. Now, at the same time too, those numbers aren't giving me the news. Those numbers are confirming what I know. And so, New Hampshire has I think we did 1,200 homes, I think, in May. And so we only have a population of a little over 1 million. And so it's about the same size as Mike's market at Fresno.
Correct.
And so his market went down 75% in the Great Recession. Ours went like 20 and change, like 26, 27, somewhere around there. So the strategies for those markets generally can be the same, but there are the numbers that you have to watch that will depend on and will dictate what some of the decision criteria is that you need to then use. So for me, I'm not expecting this massive correction in my market, especially based on what Mike saw. We added 0.1% in supply. I'm very interested to see what June is, but my guess is it's probably going to be like 0.2, 0.3. Maybe.
Yeah.
That I don't know that I'm really freaked out about that much.
No. Yeah. Again, so everybody should know by now, and it was our first deep dive video, was this thing called a buy box. If you don't know what a buy box is, congratulations. I did a 60-minute review with my students. Go to a playlist called Deep Dive and watch that. I'm not going to talk about it here. So once you have a buy box, I think I do a good job of telling people how to set it up and do it. But I just want to say here and remind folks, in an environment where negative headlines are going to dominate,
yes,
a buy box is also permission and a requirement to look at nothing else.
Yep.
You should not give a rat's ass. Like if your buy box is Fresno, California, you shouldn't care what Orange County is doing. You shouldn't care what Vegas is. You shouldn't care what Phoenix is.
Yep.
Now, I care because I have a national show. I geek out because I've got 20 some odd years of doing this. I've lived it through and profited from the last cycle. If you're a full-time employee, you're building your portfolio, I don't want you to take my nerdiness and seeking of information as permission to ignore your buy box. Again, your buy box for 90 days is 100% all you look at. You're done looking at 93703, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom houses, move on. You don't look at condos or multis. You don't look at 93728 or 01 or none of that. Stop. Don't confuse yourself. Your buy box is focus, and you've got to remember, it's also permission to look at nothing else. And I don't know that I hit that enough.
Yeah. And I think people need to focus. One of the things that we talked about, and I have to give the constant disclaimer. One of the things we talked about at the end of my live stream was talk to me about your buy box. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I've got 7 of them, but I have 7 of them because I've been doing this for 20 years. Number one. Number two is my market. Yeah. Those 3 markets combined are 50,000 people of population. That is a 20th the size of Mike's market.
Yeah, no, it is.
So he has a bunch of different zip codes, whereas I have 3 zip codes, but focus, because I didn't do all 7 of those starting. I did really a couple. And in fact, the couple that I did weren't any of those 6 or 7.
Exactly. It changes.
They
but
do.
You
They
have
do.
to focus.
Yeah. I looked and I bought a couple deals that made sense in my buy box back 20 years ago. I've since sold those properties, but I was doing it at such a bad time in the market that I didn't do a good enough job of really understanding where this thing could turn around and what that might look like. I got the part that I should have paid better attention to was that those neighborhoods were D's. They became C's. They were going to bump into the B's. And then the Great Recession hit and they went from B- to D- like that. In literally less than 6 months or 9 months, they went fast.
Yeah, and again, that's a real risk, right? If you're
Yeah.
if you're investing in a, I don't know, a maturing, up and coming or whatever they call it, and the market goes the other way, it will give all that up and then some.
Oh, it did. It went. I mean, it was a solid like D+. Those were solid D+, like area wise. Like the crime was getting better, everything was getting better, and then it turned to garbage. And then all of the landlords around were doing everything they can to just put somebody in a unit. And so the quality of tenant was garbage. It was horrible. And all of those people were evicted within 6 to 12 months.
Yeah, that's one of the things that landlords don't realize, right? When you're in a D+, C- area and the economy goes the wrong way, you may not do this, but if landlords around you do it, your tenant profile will get dragged down by other landlords' bad decisions.
Very much so. Trash on the sidewalks, like
I mean, car break-ins,
bikes outside,
exactly.
Cars with no license plates on them because it's been abandoned.
Yeah,
like dear God, it gets really bad, and it got bad, and it got bad fast, and that's why we went from 8 paying to 3 paying to 1 paying.
Yeah, and again, that's real estate investing, again, one of my rules, my 7 rules: bad things happen, you have to learn and move on. And that's what you did. You dumped those buy boxes, you went to other areas.
Yes.
Yeah, I really want people to hear, I think the buy box is the anchor.
Yep.
Sure. It's certainly where you start, but it's, again, I want to hit it again. It's permission and frankly a requirement in the first 90 days that you don't look at anything else. You don't have 7. If you're a brand new investor and you haven't done a deal yet, if you tell me you have more than 1 buy box, we're not having that conversation. Right. You can get there, but it's not in the first 90 days. You have to learn. I believe learning your buy box is a skill.
Yes.
And because it's a skill, it has to be repetition. Yep. And then once you've got it, right? You can practice a golf swing and it doesn't matter how bad it is. It's bad everywhere. But once you figure it out, you can take it to any golf course. It's the same thing. Yeah,
it really is. I mean, that was the adjustment that I had to make, when I changed markets, because I knew at that point, with having, I wouldn't say failed, but not have done a great job. It could have gotten a whole lot better. It failed compared to what my success was in my new market. And it was like, wait a second. Yeah. Like pretty much everything I touched there, the numbers work. Now it's just a matter of really getting really good ones. And there are no D areas. There are only at worst C areas. And that's like literally 2 or 3 streets in the entire city. So it's really mostly B and then a little bit of A. And now there's a ton more A, there's plenty of B, and there's still a kind of pretty little C, and it's still kind of the same. I think 2 or 3 streets maybe changed, but another 2 or 3 about the same. After 18 years, if that gives you any indication, right? That they still, it's hard to get somebody to pull out of a class of D to C or C to B. It's tough. Yeah. So folks, again, we've been talking about the real estate market is changing. We think it's getting better for investors going forward. Please do not get confused. Do not have multiple buy boxes. You really have one goal, and that is understand what is an average deal in your buy box. Once you do that, you only write great offers and you go from there. Make the second deal better than the first. Folks, where can they find you? Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and Instagram at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time on Sundays for our amazing live stream where I just keep on answering questions. Yep. Focus, folks. And check out the Lumberjacks playlist on product reviews, because I don't do them.
And also check out his live stream on Sunday, because I can't believe he goes for 3 hours. It's pretty amazing. Thanks, buddy.
Fun. Thanks, Mike.